welcome to Scrollin', a podcast about the Elder Scrolls Online. I'm Ket.
I'm Davius.
This is episode number 27. Let's see what. We're here to talk about a video game, correct? It's called...
Something like that. I think so.
It's called the Elder Scrolls Online. A lot of people compare it to WoW.
Yep.
Right? It's a massively multiplayer online role-playing game.
Except for BGs.
I'm role-playing. You
wait.
Multiplayer.
This is amazing. Let me get this straight. You're role-playing in Battlegrounds. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. That's a new thing. You started something there.
And my immersive role-playing experience in Battlegrounds, absolutely.
Just first-person perspective.
Jeez. You know what's funny is I do tend to I have an idea of what my characters' personalities are like, and I do kind of play differently depending on the character. Like I feel like this character would be more of a they would just get right up in their face and be really really aggressive, but this character would be a little more elusive, a little more more deceptive. That
sure,
kind of thing.
Sure. A little Nightbladey, a little bit more Nightblade style.
Yeah, but not necessarily Nightblades. Like like Bobby, my stamina necromancer bow build. He's kind of like that. He's very like stabby in the back kind of play style.
That guy looks like he doesn't come outside during the day.
Yeah. He's a little.
That guy's only coming out at night.
Yeah, he's got a Smeagol thing going on.
Yeah, he is the number one reason for several kids' nightmares in Tamriel.
It's pretty funny because I've talked about him lots of times, but yeah, he's super tiny, right? He's a wood elf, as tiny as I could possibly make the character, and he's got this thief personality, so he's all hunched over, so he looks even smaller, and he's using the Nordic bather's towel costume, so he's like nearly naked, and he's holding a bow. So you take one look at this guy. He's tiny, not visually not wearing anything. He's got a bow. He looks like the squishiest thing on the planet, but it's not true. It's not true at all. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of trolly in that way.
He's got some tricks up his sleeve. He also looks like he might live in a swamp somewhere.
Yeah, he's got a swamp.
Loves him a good swamp.
Going.
Loves him a good swamp.
He's been described as swampy.
That's got to be a new saying we've made up. No more of this sweaty. It's swampy.
This is a swampy one. This
BG.
It's a swampy BG, man.
This is a swampy match, guys. This is a swampy one. Oh man,
I bet that would just catch on right away. Like no one would even question it, right? Like,
that's the thing. We got to go onto the forums. Just drop that little note in there. Be like, guys, I was in this swampy. Make it like a subtext. In this swampy BG today, and this happened.
Someone's going to be like, stop trying to make swampy a thing.
Swampy's not a thing, all right? We heard it on the podcast. It's not a thing, guys.
It's not cool. Man, what have you been doing in Elder Scrolls Online this week?
Elder Scrolls. So I've been into Antiquities again. I've been doing Antiquities again this week. Okay. And, it's still relaxing, still fun, but as I was doing it, I was excited to talk to you about it. Because what do you think the deal is with Antiquities that when
What's
it first
the deal with Antiquities?
What's the deal with Antiquities? No. So when it first launched, we loved it. Couldn't get enough of it. We were doing it we were just doing it all the time. Just get lost in it for hours.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like fallen off the face of the planet. It's still fun. I still enjoy it. But it's like I've lost the initiative for it. I don't know if it's because I already got my mythic items, so it's that was kind of the end goal for it.
I think that's a lot of what it is for me. Yeah, like I got the mythic items that I really wanted, and so there's a few others that I don't have yet that I would kind of like to have, but I don't have any like builds that I'm really itching to make that include those. So I just don't have that incentive. And besides the mythic items, I don't think any of the other things really grab me, honestly.
There's some cool housing items. I do really like some of the housing items. I think they'd be cool for the guild hall, but
yeah, some of that stuff is really cool.
But I think as I was doing it, I really think I wish they would have made the mythic items require max level antiquities rather than the level 9 antiquities.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
that makes sense because it just gives you a reason. Like I've totally have stopped at level
Yeah,
9, and I've still not reached level 10. And because like I got the mythic items, it seems like you should have to be level 10 to even start hunting the mythic items.
yeah, like they're the top end item. I mean, I know those housing items that you get at level 10 are super rare, but the mythic items, they're the top tier. Those are the
Hmm.
items that everybody can use. They look cool. As I was doing that this week, it made me think like it's odd that they made those 9 because I feel like most people get there and then they just don't ever get that 10.
I was in general really surprised at how easy it was to get the mythic items, the ones that I went,
Yeah.
sought out. Like going into it before the patch dropped, I was really expecting it to be a serious grind to get something called a mythic item. I've heard myths about this item,
Yeah.
and it was pretty easy. Like I got most of them like the day that I started grinding for, or within a day or two at least.
That was the other thing about antiquities that I think that's part of the reason that I don't do it as much anymore. Because when you get to the higher level, I guess I just originally expected, all right, I'm starting to find harder things now. This is going to be trickier. The scrying is a bigger map, but it only gets easier. Like when you're a higher level, it is so
Dude,
easy.
all you need is that snowflake star
Yep.
pattern thing. You just need that one thing
Yeah.
maxed out, and
You don't
you don't
you
even
don't
you can
even use the other
blindfold and just
ones.
cover your eyes and click on the thing, and then you'll solve the puzzle.
It made me kind of feel the same way, I was talking about Vampire, how Vampire they have these 4 stages and they get really detailed with the stages, but it's like they don't really need stage 2 or 3. They only need stage 1 and 4. It's kind of like a lot of extra work for no need. I
Yeah.
started feeling that way about antiquities. For one, they have the other patterns you can use outside the snowflake that it's like I don't even ever use those. So that's like a lot of extra work. And then the other thing is that I didn't realize is that if you mess up on scrying or you do a scry and you don't get all the items, it pops up like 5 locations that you have to search, and you can go search those locations, and the artifact's not there.
Hmm.
It just made me think like that's so much extra stuff in the game that nobody would ever do. I feel like anytime you scry, and if you don't get it on the first try, and even if it's just 2 zones, you're just going to scry the item again. Nobody's actually going to go and search those 2 zones. At least I don't know anybody that's doing that.
Yeah, I think they wanted to put in some sort of fail safe, like if you were truly stumped and you're just not able to do it, then you can just go brute force search each one of those spots and find the excavation zone.
That's
But
yeah.
it's like the scrying puzzles are so easy. It's hard to imagine getting stumped like that. But I don't know, man. Who knows? Someone listening might be like, man, I'm totally stumped on one right now.
Yeah, I
So
mean, everybody's different.
yeah.
I guess I had looking back, I wish it was a little more complicated the higher level you got than what it turned out to be.
That yeah, the once you level up all those skills, it's those skills are OP, man. It's like it's almost hard to fail once you have it all leveled up.
Yeah, I actually found it harder, which I guess there's some logic to that. It was much harder for me at a lower level than it was at a higher level. Like I started and did antiquities with Bear Claw, my stamina warden, and it was
Hmm.
actually like harder to start it back up with him than it is with Davius when he's searching these really really super rare antiquities.
Yeah.
Those it's just simple and easy, but with Bear Claw, I was like, oh, I don't have any of those tricks anymore, so I got to figure out how to do that. Maybe there's a reason for that we're not thinking of, or maybe there's something we're looking past. But I feel like it kind of the combination of things we talked about has kind of probably been reasons why I've kind of stepped away from antiquities a bit.
Yeah. Sometimes I will, I accumulate leads without realizing it a lot of the time, which is kind of cool. They kind of hide them in these nooks and crannies, and so sometimes I'll just bring up that menu and take a look, like what leads do I have, and sometimes I'll spot a cool lead that I didn't realize, like, oh, actually, I kind of do want that for the guild hall or whatever, and I'll go hunt those down. Maybe once a week or so, I'll do that.
Yeah,
Um,
I do like I agree with you on that. It's really cool when you like check your list of leads and you're like, oh, look at all these leads I grabbed that I didn't even realize that I was grabbing leads, and it's just kind of dropped off random bosses or things that I was doing anyways.
Yeah, what sucks is I really wish I was incentivized do antiquities to get the Thracian Stranglers. Like honestly, that would be the next on my list if it
Hmm.
wasn't looking so bleak for that item in the near
Yeah.
future.
Who knows? There's probably changes coming.
Who knows? Who knows?
So yeah, so antiquities is one of the things that I was doing this week, but I really kind of went down that rabbit hole of like wondering, I used to do this all the time for hours, and now I very rarely do it. And I think it's a combination of those things that we kind of talked about. The other thing I've been doing is that I think that I've got my stamcro pretty much done. The only thing I'm doing is I'm farming for some more Telvar, so I got to do a couple more sewer runs.
Okay.
But just for the
Just to get some
tri-stat
tri-stats?
glyphs.
Okay.
Yeah, just to fully tri-stat the gear out. Um, but I'm really excited about the build. I fully golded everything out. With the upcoming patch, there's some changes coming to the sword singer set, so he's getting more damage. Just kind of a reminder. We've talked about him before, but kind of a reminder. He does the Daring Corsair set, which is the 5-piece. Is that it's 10% reduced costs on weapon abilities, and when you use a weapon ability, you get minor heroism for 8 seconds.
Yeah.
And then the Sword Singer is just a flat 450 weapon damage for two-handed abilities, which is in the upcoming patch is going to change to 600 flat weapon damage. And I think I've just got Bloodspawn on his helmet. Yeah, I've got Bloodspawn on his helmet set up just because all the onslaughts. The more often the onslaught, the better with that build.
Sure, yeah.
And then the whole front bar is just two-handed abilities. But as I was playing with him, we kind of talked. He's kind of, I a while back we talked about I'd find out that he's my hardest hitting character. But the more I play with him, like the more I'm realizing like this is a nice little setup that we got there. His regular just dizzy swing, or actually he uses the I use the other morph, the
Wrecking
wrecking
Blow.
blow.
One of the rare Wrecking Blow users out there.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
So I use wrecking blow, and his wrecking blows hit for like very often 11k. Like the minimum they're hitting about 10.5.
Yeah.
And so he hits really hard. It's kind of funny because it's a very simple rotation. It's just a two-handed front bar, so
Yeah.
it's wrecking blow when they're in the right health percentage. You start your execute. You make sure your momentum buffs up on the back bar. He just does the necro, major resolve, and then I do the spirit to take 10% damage. So just making sure the buffs are up on the back bar, and then just pretty simple front bar. And he's got the two-handed gap closer. But man, he hits really hard. I was going to talk to you. We've kind of talked about so the Daring Corsair set. This is I feel like it's a not very used set out there. But we've kind of talked about this that people might be sleeping on this set a little bit. Obviously, it's not going to work for every build because it only works for weapon abilities. But here lately, there's a lot of builds that are kind of going for weapon abilities, and you just get so much out of it if you can utilize those weapon abilities.
Yeah.
Because
If you're leaning a lot on weapon abilities,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Like
you
you
get
are with this build, it's basically
yeah.
all weapon abilities. Like you're not even
I
using
mean,
blast bones, right?
yeah, no, it's just full two-handed
I
front
know
bar. But
someone listening thinking a Stamcro without blast bones. What?
what is happening here? Yeah, there's a chance in the future I might swap out the gap closer with blast bones. We've kind of talked about it a bit. Gap closers are very
You can
just
take them
depends
or
on the
leave them.
player.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very dependent on the player style. I've noticed that usually gap closers usually get me in trouble because I'm usually trying to chase somebody down that you
I
try to get the kill
If
on.
I'm using a gap closer, I basically needs to be a gank build, like a
Yeah.
non-stealth gank. Like you need for me in battlegrounds, especially right now with the volatility of the playfield right now. If you're going to be gap closing, you're most likely going to be gap closing into a very dangerous situation, and so I feel like I just need to have a ton of damage ready to just take that person out instantly. Otherwise, it's probably not even worth slotting a gap closer because you're just going to be getting into trouble more often than not.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. Most of the time I'll gap close, and he's got enough damage where I'll finish somebody off. But then, you know, then I turn around and I've gotten myself in a bad situation because I've gap closed across, a large distance, and I'm in a bad position. So I usually end up getting myself killed. So I'm just chasing a kill just to get killed myself. So that's actually something I thought about. I might throw blast bones in that spot. But man, just the daring, kind of going back to the daring corsair, just the sustain from it. The 10% cost reduction is huge. And then you throw in the minor heroism, and you're really kind of, if you've got the right, weapon abilities, you're kind of getting two 5-piece sets out of one. You're basically getting, like a seducer type set along with,
Like a champion of the Hist.
yeah, champion
Uh,
of the Hist, or what's the other one called? Shulks.
Shulk's
Uh,
exoskeleton, yeah.
yep. So you're
Um,
kind of that's
yeah,
my
if
favorite
you
thing about
build
the
if you
set.
build around it, you kind of are getting like you're kind of getting these two different kinds of sets combined into one. Pretty nice.
Yeah, so it works out really well. And I just really like the pairing because, those sets I'm getting the heroism, I'm getting the really good sustain. But when you kind of go those ways, you kind of lose on damage. And that's why I'm so excited for the weapon damage buff that Swordsinger is getting, because a 600 flat weapon damage buff is huge, and it's a massive, if to just dedicate one set to get that much weapon damage is going to work out perfectly for that build. Yeah, it's going to be all the damage I need, and then having the blood spawn, it really kind of turns into a really really strong ultimate, generating set with high damage, and I think everybody listening knows how nasty onslaught can be. Especially an onslaught that has a flat 600 weapon damage buff on it.
It's interesting you say that. I feel like I don't see as much onslaught as I used to. I wonder if it was just because it was just the hot new, like they had just buffed it, and so just everyone was using onslaught for a while. I feel like it's not as common as it used to be lately.
Yeah, things seem to have gone back to Dawnbreaker, as that's kind of the more popular ultimate, which they're both good. Onslaught, Dawnbreaker, fantastic, ultimates, but the onslaught obviously worked perfect for him because it gets all those buffs, and it's one of the rare Davius medium builds.
Oh
Medium
yeah.
armor build from Davius. That's a little it's a little out there for me, but it works out.
Cool. Yeah, and he
Uh,
just so happens to. You weren't you just saying he's one of your very best characters, and he happens to be a medium armor
Whoa,
build.
hey, whoa
Interesting.
now,
Very very interesting.
whoa now. Hold on.
Anyone
Um,
listening who's not in on this attitude we're having here.
uh,
Davies and I are always having this heavy armor versus medium armor debate.
it's a debate that's gone on till the end of time.
So
But yeah, but kind of just, like I said, I'm really big on this Daring Corsair set this week. I feel like that another idea, and I don't have this build, I probably won't build this build, I won't put it together or anything, but I kind of started thinking about how well this would pair with a bow build, and then you even utilizing a master bow with it.
oh yeah.
It just seems like that would pair really well. I feel like bow is kind of the premier weapon. Well, in PvP, anyways, right now, I feel like bow is kind of the
Bo is so hot right now.
yeah,
It really is.
the bow is so hot right now. So and bow has great, great abilities in it, and so obviously with the poison arrow, and then if you did the bow spammable with this daring corsair, so you're getting the ultimate build, 10% cost reduction with that master's bow. I feel like pairing those two would be a pretty nice setup. So I just think that this Daring Corsair, people kind of sleep on it because they just see it as obviously it seems really limiting when you read it because it's only weapon abilities, but
It
it
seems like a really good. I know you're using it on a stamcro and you've built around it, but it seems like it would be a really great set on a stamina sorcerer because they kind of have no choice other than to use mostly
yeah
weapon abilities. So it just seems like perfect for them, and they already get a lot of cost reduction for ultimate. So that plus the minor heroism at all times, some good synergy there. I've thought about
yeah
using that on a stam sword.
Yeah, that sounds like a real nice setup. And the thing is, obviously I've gone all out with all the weapon abilities. You don't have to do that. I just did that because of Sword Singer, so it's all buffs. And I still, like I said, I still might throw Blast Bones on there. But,
Well, just for the
if you,
permanent major defile. I mean, that's the reason.
yeah,
Yeah.
that would be huge. But I'm just saying you could still, as long as you're spammable as a weapon ability, that's really all you need to get everything you need out of Daring Corsair. Now, you could throw other abilities on there for cost reduction, but a 10% cost reduction on your spammable combined with with the minor heroism every time you use it, that's going to be a fantastic setup.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of builds. I mean, for the longest time, a very effective PvP build is just stamina builds, spamming Dizzying Swing, and that's the entire combo. Is just that, and then execute when they're in execute range. So, I
Yeah.
mean,
That's
you
kind of
know,
that's kind of you're getting close to my
it's
stamcro
like,
there.
oh, don't give away my secret, man. Hold on.
Oh, that's a rotation, hey.
But yeah,
No,
so I
but
mean, literally your entire combo, both of those sets are fully applying to all of
yep,
that.
yep. But yeah, so that's kind of what I've been finishing up this week. The last thing, it's for sure happening. It's just you can write this in stone. After I finish this Stamcro, I'm making the werewolf. It's happening.
All right, I'm gonna have to do it too then.
Yep, we got
I
to
got to
start it.
do it.
Gift of the Rift. That's my werewolf character.
You've already created the character, right?
He's already created. He's going to be a Nightblade. I don't know exactly how I'm going to build the Nightblade. The joke, my original plan was to make this, this bow gank build that picks on people, and then as soon as they get frustrated, they run to it, and then I turn into a werewolf. Still think that would be awesome and hilarious. I
Yeah,
may
I
still
love
try
the
to do
idea.
that. It's just going to be tricky because I really want to build for the werewolf, so it'd be tricky to make that work with mainly focusing on the werewolf. But one of the things I want to talk to you about is that I'm very split on how I want to build the werewolf. I've kind of looked around, kind of seen what people do with werewolf, and I feel like that, at least from what I've decided I want to do, there's kind of two different directions you can go. Is that you can kind of make this nasty, hard-hitting, super tough werewolf, where you just max out the stamina, and then they get that huge stamina buff, and so you're just hitting like crazy.
Uh-huh.
So like a hulking Draugr seems to be pretty common on a werewolf build, things like that. Or, which I'm leaning more towards this one, just because it's my strange style. I feel like the kind of doing this pack leader build where the whole build is just about making sure I'm in werewolf real easy. There's that set that reduces the werewolf ultimate cost by I think it's 33%. So throwing that set on there, throwing like maybe more there's some upcoming ultimate building sets. There's one that every time you use a potion, your whole group gets ultimate. There's the other one that whenever someone dies, there's a synergy that the group can use that gives you ultimate and the person ultimate. And so I'm kind of thinking it would be cool to build this ultimate, maybe this like group ultimate build on a werewolf where I'm staying in werewolf, but also giving my group a bunch of ultimate if they were all werewolves, they could just like this kind of pack leader type build could keep the whole group in werewolf form.
That's it's such a devious werewolf. It's like a support werewolf.
A support werewolf. I'm thinking this would be how cool would that be?
Yeah, support. I mean, that's like super unique. I think, and it could be fun, especially if we got a wolf pack going. You get like
Yeah,
4, 5, 6 wolves going, and you just have this dude just generating ultimate for
just giving
everyone.
everybody ultimate, making sure they're just in werewolf all the time. I think that could be really, really cool. It
Yeah,
also made me, we always say this. We always mention it. We always say we're not going to go down this rabbit hole, but it did make me think how cool it would be with that type of build to do a group battleground where you just join with 4 werewolves and one of them is that pack leader wolf and then just terrorize a BG. Can't
man.
do it anymore, but man, that would be a lot of fun.
I'm seeing more werewolves in BGs lately. I think that's always like my kind of my measure. I do a lot of BGs, and it's like, okay, how many of what classes or what builds do I see typically? And that's it's kind of just how I have it in my mind, like how builds rank among each other. And we've kind of sort of lamented for a while, like, man, there's just never werewolves in BGs, like in the high MMR matches, like not ever. But lately they there have been, and they seem to be pretty darn successful. So as much as I in my sort of like role play, I always like stinking werewolves. You know, I always try to I always try to focus them, and I'm happy. Part of me is happy to see that they're doing well.
Yeah, it is cool. I mean, part of the thing that makes werewolf, that makes I don't know, it makes me feel like it's okay that they're really really tough right now. Is that when someone turns into a werewolf, that's the biggest target on someone's back. In a battleground and PvP, you just see that and you're like, oh, look at this giant thing. Like, it just naturally is going to draw aggro of most players. So I feel like it just kind of naturally works that it should be a little bit more of a buff than what the other people are because they're about to get hit and focused. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much me.
Nice, man. Yeah, I need to. So I'm gonna have to make a werewolf as well. I don't know if I'm gonna make one of my existing characters a werewolf, which would be the easy thing. Um, or it's just an excuse to make a new character. Because the thing is I've kind of reached a point where I have all the characters that I need. I have a stamina and a magicka of every class. So I need an excuse to make a new character because I enjoy the process of creating a new character, leveling them up, getting them all figured out, and all the things into place. It's always fun.
Yeah, I vote that you make a new character. I think that'd be a lot of fun. We could level up two
Yeah.
new
Plus, it's a
characters.
new opportunity to come up with a funny, stupid new name for a character.
That's half the fun of making a new
Uh,
character.
all right, the name sold me on it. I'm gonna make a new one.
It's happening.
I've been doing my Cyrodiil transmute grind this week. That's
Nice.
kind of been my main goal, and I've done it on I think all the characters that I'm going to do it on. There's a few that I skipped it, but that's okay. I think I'm gonna. I already have like right now. I have like 150 crystals.
That's a good
So
spot to be. But
yeah.
you know it'll go quick.
Oh, it'll go just getting one build sorted out. They'll all be gone.
Wait till
Um,
next podcast. Next podcast, one or two from now, it's gonna be like, I really need more transmute crystals. That's what I'm waiting on.
yeah, waiting on those transmutes. Yeah, they'll go in the blink of an eye. I'm not sure who I'm going to use them on next though. That's I kind of am in a good spot though because I already have a good amount, and I have a good amount coming as well. And most of my builds are kind of where I want them to be. I have a couple of ideas, like my stamina warden support build. He's a stamina healer basically. I'm actually really pumped about this dude. He might be one of the next ones that I start really focusing on. And he basically his build is actually already complete, but it's not quite optimized since like Greymore dropped. So I'll have to do some transmuting and some stuff to get him kind of squared away in that regard. So I'll use some on him, but otherwise I don't know. I'll just have to. I'll just sort of sit on a surplus for a little while until I figure out what I want to do with them. So that feels kind of nice.
Very nice.
Also, as always, doing a lot of BGs, and I said on the last episode that I've kind of made a commitment to myself to get good with my original main and my Magic and Nightblade. And so I've been doing a lot of battlegrounds with him, and I feel like I'm doing all right with him. I still feel like there are challenges for a Magic and Nightblade specifically that I'm still learning to overcome. Unlike like
Sure.
I always say about my Stam Sorc, man, there's no obstacle. Like I just jump in, I just know it's gonna go well. And it almost seems too easy. Uh, Not the case with Magblade, man. And like that stealth, it can be OP and it can be really frustrating to be on the other end of that. But there, when you play as a Nightblade, you really do realize there are a ton of counters to stealth, and there are a ton of situations where the stealth does literally nothing at all. Like it's just a useless slot on your skill bars. Um,
That's tough. That's tough to see in
yeah.
a BG, a useless slot on the bar.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Yeah. In this MMO, we only have these 10 slots, or I guess
Hmm.
12 with the ultimates. Um, Nonetheless, I've been getting, I think, like average results. I think probably about the same kind of results that I get with, say, like Betsy, who's like, well, I would say like my PvP main. And she gets about average results. She's really good. Like maybe on like a sweaty match, she goes like maybe 10-2, somewhere around there, which is pretty good, I think.
Yeah, no,
Um,
that's really good. You get up into those high MMR matches and 10-2. That's you be proud about that.
Anyway, I've been playing some more with my stamina necromancer as well. I've been talking about this dude for the past several episodes. I think I feel like I've been talking about him for quite a while because it took me several weeks to figure out what I even wanted the build to be. Then once I figured that out, I had to get the pieces, get it all transmuted, get it all together. So it's been together for a couple of weeks now. And I'm really just waiting for this Stonethorn patch to drop because normally I would just go ahead and make a build video right now, put it up on YouTube, and maybe just make a comment like, "Oh, hey, by the way, next patch, these things are going to be changed." But this particular build, it's just basically overnight is going to be getting buffed so much as soon as this patch drops. Like seriously, this dude is just going to wake up one day and just be a lot more powerful than he was the day before. So I feel like it's really worth waiting for that patch to drop. Um, but I've been having a lot of fun with him. I did put just some footage of a BG death match on YouTube with this dude, just as a preview. I know I've been talking about it a lot on the podcast, so I figured I'd throw it up on YouTube just to show people what exactly I've been talking about. Show the dude in action, so show that hey, you can get some kills. See, uh, you know, just kind of as a proof of concept. But the build video will be coming later. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's a bow build. He's a wood elf roly poly using a whole lot of really powerful, really trolly poison procs, and he's really slippery, very dodgy, hard to get your hands on. And even if someone does get their hands on him, he's surprisingly tanky for a medium armor bow build. I always have to
Yeah.
put that caveat: tanky for a medium armor bow. I'm not saying he's tanky. I'm just saying, Um, so yeah, I've been having a ton of fun with that dude. The biggest challenge I found with this build, and I'll probably say it in the video when I make it, is dealing with night blades specifically. And it's always something that I always try to put some sort of solution in my build to deal with stealth.
Yeah.
But this one doesn't really have that. And so, like, if I see a night blade going into stealth, usually I just if I can just slip away, I do that, or I just put up my buffs, put up block, and hope for the best because I really don't have a strong counter, but if I can pull them out of stealth, if they pop out of stealth for a second and I can land a CC on them, they're going to be toast, absolutely. But I just don't have a way to force them out of stealth. That's the only thing. And I'm probably just gonna accept that about the build and just say that's just a weakness. I'm just gonna accept that and go on with it because I don't really see a way to change that without making a sacrifice that I don't want to make.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that. Well, I don't know. With the way that bow is right now, I actually have seen quite a bit of night blades in battlegrounds, more than I usually see, but still not an insane amount. I feel like.
Yeah, yeah, they're out there. They are out there. I've also been kind of toying around in Clockwork City here lately. Not really, not really doing much other than just kind of running around and just killing monsters and looting stuff and just kind of looking at the scenery. I do that a lot. A lot of the time that I spend in this game is just aimlessly wandering around, like just listening to a podcast or whatever. And I try to kind of once in a while just switch up, like, okay, whenever I'm doing that, I'm going to do that in this zone for a while, and then after I don't know a week or so, like, all right, let's switch to this zone. Let's just kill time in this zone this week. So I've been doing that in Clockwork City here lately, and I think it's inspiring me to actually go back and play this DLC. The zone looks really, really cool, and the more that I just pay attention to it and like focus on things, it's super unique. I'm like a one of a kind zone. Very just it's a really interesting thing, and just if you kind of forget the fact that it's a video game and just absorb yourself and like, okay, I'm in this world, and you just look around like, man, this place is weird, this is crazy.
Yeah.
uh and whenever I first went through that DLC, I feel like I just kind of blasted through it at the time. Honestly, I don't think I paid super close attention. And now that I've just been kind of spending more time there and just kind of soaking up that atmosphere, I want to go back and really pay close attention to that story and see what the heck is going on in Clockwork City. So I think I'm going to be doing that here pretty soon. So I'll be talking about that probably in future episodes.
They did a good job designing that zone because it's like everything there is a machine or metal or something, right?
Yeah, there's apparently like no organic matter whatsoever, I guess, outside of the people that are there. But yeah, even like the trees and grass and everything is like machinery.
That's where we should level our werewolves up because I've actually never done that DLC, so I need
Okay.
to look. That's one of the rare DLCs I haven't done, so I need to do that one as
Be
well.
fun. A couple of werewolves lost in robot land. Like what the heck? These dudes are fishes out of water.
that's just that's a perfect setup for a story right there.
Yeah, I like it. I like that. So I just wanted to mention we're recording again on a Friday evening, and I think we're gonna try doing this from now on for a while and see how that goes. It's just a little bit more convenient time for us, and it allows me in particular to get a lot more of my weekend back if I can just kind of get this knocked out early. It's just more time that I have to myself over the weekend, which is nice.
I feel like
Um,
that evening us is better than morning us too. There's
yeah,
something there, right?
yeah, we have that Friday like after work energy, like weekends starting. Yeah, like normally we have been recording Saturday mornings, and that's nice too. I like Saturday mornings, but yeah, we kind of have this more chill vibe going. So I don't know. I guess we'll just try it and see. There's no reason we can't go back to Saturday mornings if we decide later that was better or whatever. We're gonna try this for a while. The only reason I'm mentioning it normally wouldn't. Listeners like, who cares? Okay, I'm just listening to this on like Monday on my way to work. Who cares when you record it? The only reason I'm saying that is because we're probably just gonna get rid of the gold vendor segment. I'm not gonna talk about that anymore because we just don't have the info yet. Right?
Yeah.
It's gonna drop later this evening, and it's kind of a bummer because that's kind of I guess that's just the sacrifice that we're having to make to just make this more convenient for ourselves because I really do like talking about the gold vendor. It's nice to have this perfect built-in weekly rotation of armor sets to kind of go over and
Yeah.
discuss.
We'll have to figure
Um,
we'll figure something out there because I agree with you on that it's nice to talk about the armor sets, but specifically the gold vendor, and you've mentioned this. Most of the time, probably by the time listeners are listening to this, they're like, "Oh, listen to this great set that they're talking about that is already not available at the gold vendor anymore."
yeah, exactly. It's fun to talk about, but it's like functionally it doesn't do anything, right? Like we're all like basically we're talking about a set that you hopefully have already purchased
Yep.
because if not, too
You're
bad.
cursing us out for mentioning
Yeah.
it.
So I don't know. Maybe if any listeners have any ideas there, give us an email, scrollinpodcast@gmail.com. Because I would like to kind of continue having a weekly armor set, way of having a weekly armor set. And I don't want to just like manually pick one. I like it to be that kind of randomly generated, like a set that I wouldn't normally think of or whatever. So I don't know. We'll figure that out. If we have to just totally do away with that entirely, we'll do it. It's fine. Okay, let's talk about the public test server. This is public. This is PTS version 6.1.4. What is it? Week 5. So we have. Um, we're at the end of week 5, so we basically have 1 week left after this, and then the patch goes live.
Yep.
Uh, very little changed. Mostly just a lot of kind of refinements, bug fixes, some finishing touches on these new dungeons, and the character pathing and that kind of stuff. A lot of that kind of just finishing touch sort of things. Not a lot of big changes as far as balance, combat abilities, that kind of stuff. The one thing that's kind of worth focusing on PTS is the one of these new sets, Elemental Catalyst. I thought of a new term for what's happening to this set, Davius. It got stoonsed.
It done
They
got that Stoon treatment.
they stoonsed it.
Oh,
It came out, on PTS week 1, super strong, like probably crazy OP, and then they nerfed it until I don't know if it's good or not anymore. I'm honestly on the fence. Before it was like obviously amazing.
yeah.
Now I'm like kind of teetering on this set. Like I was thinking about farming a Black Rose Prison ice staff for the purpose of using it with this set. And now I'm really rethinking like if I even want to spend the time doing that because I don't know if it's going to be worthwhile.
Yeah, it's just kind of so little now. It's to dedicate a whole set for just it seems like minimal
Yeah, and I kind
rewards
of
for it now.
And if it was a crafted set or something, I would maybe still try it just to see. But since I have to farm a dungeon for it, and I have to farm Black Rose Prison for that staff, just not sure. But that's not what everyone would use it for. I think the typical use case would be a DPS build using Force Pulse, right? I'm trying to
Yeah.
use it for like a sort of support build, so that's different. So anyway, what's the nerf? What did they do to it? They reduced the critical damage taken per stack down to 3%, down from 5%. And I guess I should remind people this is the set where when you deal elemental damage, it gives your enemy a stack of elemental weakness up to 3 stacks max, and for each stack they take additional critical damage, right? Week 1, when this set first appeared, it was 6% additional critical damage per stack, so 18 total. They nerfed it down to 5%, like week 2 or 3, somewhere around there. So that's 15% additional critical damage taken that your enemy would get. So now it's 3% additional critical damage taken per stack. So that's down to 9% total. So half what you got on that original iteration. I don't know. It's hard to feel mad about a set that's never been in the game. Like it's not like
Yeah.
anything's being taken away. So anyone who hasn't been following PTS, this set's just going to appear one day, and they might just be like, "Sweet, this looks awesome." But seeing like what it was and now what it is, like man, the wind is really, really taking out of my sails. It might not be so bad if they didn't also reduce the duration. So now the duration, instead of 5 seconds, it's 3 seconds. If they'd taken it down to 4 seconds, that would have made such perfect sense because glyphs, like elemental damaging glyphs, have a 4 second cooldown. So that'd just be so perfect.
I would like to see, I was just thinking that. I would like to see maybe one last change to this. They dropped 5% to 3%, 5 seconds to 3 seconds. I'd like to see it at a 4% and 4 seconds. I think that seems like the
Might be
sweet
the
spot
sweet
for
spot
me.
right there. Yeah.
That'd be a 12% total critical damage taken with a 4 second cooldown. That seems like the sweet spot.
That seems perfect. Yeah. Because, yeah, 12% seems like reasonable, but still like a good amount. Like they would like really incentivize you to use it.
Hmm.
And the 4 second cooldown, the thing is, like, you want to be dealing is all 3 types of elemental damage, right? So what someone might want to do, like you could use Force Pulse as your spammable, or you could use say like a fire staff with wall of elements, but it's like an infused weapon with a or it's just a regular weapon with a like a frost glyph or a shock
Hmm.
glyph on it,
Yep.
and those have a 4 second cooldown. So you would be getting both of those stacks just out of that one thing, out of just wall of elements would be giving 2 stacks already. So you just need a source of frost damage then, and you have everything. And it would be on cooldown because it's that 4 second duration. Your glyph has a 4 second cooldown, so that's perfect. So
That seems like that'd be the sweet spot. It'll probably launch like this just because it's so close. But maybe we still got 1 week of changes, so maybe there's something in store.
yeah, I guess you could really think of it as sort of there's two possible patches of changes, right? Because almost always that week one, that first live patch, there's always a surprise or two. Like there might be
Yeah.
small ones, but they often slip in a little last minute gotcha. So we'll see. Um, anyway, they said the dev comment on this is my own paraphrasing of it. They said that it's already very easy to get a lot of crit and critical damage without even trying. I would say I agree with that, especially in PvE. Um, seriously, if you're not even trying to have a lot of crit, it's too bad. You're going to have a lot of crit anyway, basically.
Yeah.
Um, so this is the comment I think a lot of people are fixating on. They say that they originally planned to let this set naturally balance itself out once we do a larger pass on critical strike sourcing in the game. That's a straight quote right there. So they're saying that crit is going to be getting looked at in the future. Like we're going to be getting a rebalancing pass, and so people are they're flipping desks over, man. They're jumping out
People
of
are getting
windows.
worried.
Uh, there's basically a lot of people are assuming, okay, crit nerfs incoming. And who knows how far down the road that's going to be. It could be a whole like a year or more from now. It's just one tiny little comment within a comment, really, that's suggesting that crit's going to be getting looked at in the future, and yeah, probably nerfed. I mean, they're saying basically they think it's too easy to have a lot of crit, so they're probably going to make it not so easy to have so much crit, and make it something that if you want to have a crit build, you're probably going to have to really, really invest in it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like if they do it right, I can totally understand the reasoning and the justification behind it. In PVE right now, absolutely every DPS build is a crit build, and these cool new proc sets and stuff. They're mostly PvP sets right now because crit builds just raw crit builds do more damage than proc sets for the most part in
Yep.
PvE. So I'd like to see, yeah, some variety going on there. That it makes sense if there's just something that's overwhelmingly like, okay, just this one kind of build is the kind of build to use in this situation. I could see why they would want to shake that up, make it where that's still a viable build to have, but maybe not the only possible thing. So we'll just have to see how they approach that. Basically, it going on in PTS. So it's just
Very
that
very small changes on this week.
elemental catalyst with a suggestion of crit nerfs in the future.
They
Um,
they just stuned Elemental Catalyst. That was basically PTS this week.
yeah, it was worth going over just to coin the phrase "got stoonsed."
Got stunsed.
They stoonsed it. You hate to see it. Uh,
Oh.
I figured maybe we can talk about some stuff that maybe we're looking forward to coming up in this Stonethorn patch. I have a few things. I figured maybe I would ask you first, though. See what if you
Oh,
have
you throwing
anything in
throwing me out
particular.
there.
Yeah, get out there, man.
One of the things I'm really excited about, and it's probably because we pick unique builds, is almost all of our builds are just getting straight buffs.
Yeah,
I think that's what I'm most excited about.
yeah. We were
Um,
talking about that the other day. Like I'm pretty sure almost all of our builds are just gonna be better when this patch
just
drops.
flat buffs.
Yeah,
Specifically, I've talked about I'm really excited for the Stamcro with the Sword Singer huge buff, but the one I'm probably most excited about is my stamDK, just because he's got 3 sets and every single one of his sets is getting a buff. He's got
nice.
Bloodspawn. Bloodspawn's going back to the more of the original Bloodspawn, maybe even a little bit better than the original with the lower cooldown. He's got Champion of the Hist, which is getting a buff that's just getting a 5 piece health bonus. Um, well, I take that back because I actually switched them up, but he did have Werewolf Hide, which is also getting a buff, but I switched that up with the 3 piece ultimate reduction set. So, but still, he's getting buffs, and he's the one I'm really most excited about with the new Stonethorn patch with just flat buffs. I really love that character. Lord of Nords is his name, so I feel like he's got a title to live up
He's
to
got to
there.
live up to that name.
Yeah, so I'm excited that he's just kind of getting flat buffed across the board. He's gonna be really exciting.
Sweet man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to a lot of these. I think that might be the thing maybe I'm looking forward to the most is just a lot of the existing sets that are getting improved, basically buffed and made better. Like my stamcro that I was just talking about. He's using one of his sets is sheer venom. It's getting buffed where it has like a huge execute multiplier. Like it just does more and more and more damage as your target loses health. And that's already a vicious build, and that's just gonna put like even sharper fangs on him. I'm looking forward to that. My magblade that I was talking about too. He's using Torig's Pact, and that's is
Oof,
getting
yeah,
massively buffed.
yeah, that's gonna
Um,
be that's. I'm excited to see what that's gonna look like when this patch
it's already super
launches.
strong. Like that's a super strong build right now. Whether that set gets buffed or not, and
Hmm.
even if they fully retract this buff and say never mind, we're just going to leave Torig's Pact as it is, I'll still keep the build as it is because it's already
Yep.
great. But it's getting buffed significantly. It's gonna have more damage, a more frequent proc rate, and it's gonna give me more I'm getting an additional line of armor, so I'm going to be tankier. So I'm very just all around is just getting better. More damage, more tankiness, just better set.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like I do have to mention, I didn't mention this, but it goes back into my stamDK. The decisive trait buff is definitely the trait I'm most excited about. I already love the decisive trait, so the fact that it's getting a buff, a large buff,
mhm.
it's getting, what is it? It's currently 40%, 40% chance to get one ultimate every time you gain ultimate, and it's getting what's it getting buffed to? Is it 50?
Uh,
I can't remember if it's
decisive.
50 or 60.
Um, 55.
Yeah. So that's definitely the trade I'm most excited about. I already love that trade just because I love ultimate, builds, and that's a big buff for an ultimate build.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm really looking forward to a lot of this kind of basic stuff kind of getting buffed, like a lot of these traits and Mundus stones, like the well fitted trait, the divines trait, the swift trait, and you know I'm probably going to rave about this like every episode forever, but we have this base crit resistance now, which allows us to actually use these traits in PvP. So, a year ago, like, oh, sweet, well fitted's getting buffed. Too bad I can't use it, or divines, or whatever, in a PvP situation. But now I can be excited about well fitted getting buffed. Like I have a bunch of characters that use well fitted now. Same with divines. Like almost all of my magic characters have at least 3 or 4 divines pieces on. And so to see that getting buffed, the serpent and Atronach, the recovery munduses, are getting buffed significantly. And a lot of my characters are using both of those. Like they're using a recovery mundus and the divine trait. So both of those things getting buffed.
Yeah,
That's what we're talking about. Like there's so many examples of our characters just waking up one day and it's like, oh, my Mundus Stone is better. These traits are better. I run faster now. I have more damage now. Like it's just I did nothing and I'm just so much better in all these various ways. And each thing by itself is pretty small, but they add up to a lot. Like, well fitted and the swift trait both getting buffed at the same time. Those two go together, like if i'm
yeah,
using if I'm using swift jewelry, you better believe I'm also using well fitted armor, so it's like a double buff to all those characters, and it adds up to quite a bit. So yeah, I'm stoked about that. It seems like the little stuff is really what I'm getting excited about with this patch, like these tiny little traits and mundus stones and different things like
yeah.
that.
It's the best time ever for theory crafting, right? I mean, like you just said. I mean, think about, I don't know how long it's been now, maybe probably a year, maybe years. But back when it was like the only thing that mattered was impin, divines, and infused. It was like the only three traits that mattered. If you got a piece of armor and it wasn't those, that was before transmute. So if you didn't get a piece of armor and it wasn't one of those, then it was just you're throwing it out.
Yeah.
So now to these traits matter, and you can transmute, and so you're changing. It's such a great time for theory crafting right now.
It's a great time for theory crafting. It's also a great time just for like being lazy with your builds, like I'm not kidding. I've seen people in guild chats, like great players that I know are great, and like they're kind of joking around, but I think they're kind of serious that they're just kind of use a bunch of random traits because like they're good enough. Like the base crit resistance plus maybe an impin piece or two is probably fine. So if they get like a sturdy and an infused and a whatever, it's like, well, fine, we'll make it work.
Yeah,
I kind of like that. Like if you're good enough, you can just kind of be lazy with it and like, okay, I don't have the transmutes, but like with my stamina necromancer that I've been talking about, as I was piecing him together, I was still doing BGs with him before he was technically complete because it was functional enough while I was still working on it because of that. It's really nice.
yeah. I get more excited for the armor set changes and updates than I do for the new armor sets. I love
Yeah,
the idea of new armor sets. Please, please always keep bringing new armor sets. But I love the changes to all the other ones because it's, the our new armor sets is like, wow, this is awesome. We got 3 new armor sets to fit. But when they do those updates, we've said this before, it feels like now there's 25 new armor sets that
yeah,
are all of a sudden that we just got that we can tinker and work
and
into builds.
a lot of these existing sets that we've had for a long time are such interesting ideas for a set, like Torig's Pact, which It might not be a great example because it's always been a pretty great set, but it's just such a unique, interesting idea for a set. It's a set that just juices up your damage glyphs a whole bunch to the point to where that's like the most powerful thing in your build. Like
Hmm.
that's a really cool idea, and so to buff that setup, you get to kind of utilize this really cool idea, even better than before. So I don't know, I like that. No emails this week. If you'd like to get a hold of us, you can email us at scrollinpodcast@gmail.com. That's scrollin with an IN, scrollinpodcast@gmail.com. If you have any questions or comments about anything you'd like to hear us talk about on the show, any corrections, anything you've heard us say that's just not correct, you can politely correct us on that, and we'll acknowledge that next time. Really, anything you'd like to say at all, just say what's up, tell us a joke, whatever. Scrollinpodcast@gmail.com. You can also hit us up in the game. I'm at Ket Sparrow Hawk. Davius is at Starjumper. I'd like to give a shout out to Grizzly Khan. I don't think he did anything of note this week, but he's out
Gotta give
there.
Grizz shout out of the week right there. You gotta give it.
Got to give the weekly Grizz shout out. I know he's out there making the world a better place. So shout out Grizzly Khan. Anything else, Davius?
I think that's it.
All right, we're going to get out of here. We'll see you next time.